focus, man.
What's good, everybody? Once again, this is your guy, Jay Focus, reminding you to stay focused. Okay, so the topic today came to me from several of my subscribers who wanted me to talk about what it's like to be black and to date in Argentina. Now, this is a big topic. We got a lot to unpack. So I need to put a trigger warning down here. So if you're going to get triggered, you might want to get up out this video right now because we're going to talk about it. All right. So first things first, I'm going to give you my background so you know I'm not just some guy who's talking some stuff that he made up. Right. So I've actually lived in Argentina for years. So unlike a lot of other YouTubers who might have spent a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month there, they really don't have the depth of experience that I have to really break down this topic. And so if you're looking to travel to Argentina and maybe spend $2,000, $3,000 on a vacation before you go, you might want to reach out to me on Instagram for a consultation. And that's at JAY Focused, FOCUSED1. And you can set that up with me through there because, you know, before you spend that type of money, you want to have expert advice. And when it comes to this, I'm the expert. I don't think anybody else can compare to it. And this is a general video. I'm going to give you some general knowledge, but it's nothing like something tailored to your specific case and your circumstances. All right, with that being said, I'm going to go get into it. So just go ahead, like the video right now because I'm going to talk about it. So Argentina, I can't really speak about Argentina culture and the women without giving you guys a little bit of history and a little bit of background. I'm not going to get too deep, but if Argentina in general is a topic that guys are curious about, they are interested in, I can do a series on it, on different cities throughout Argentina to give you guys not only dating, but just some ideas of what things look like on the ground, how to save money, how to maneuver when you're in these different cities. So if that's something that you guys like, support this video and I will come through with that content. I'm actually thinking about doing it on Fridays, dropping Argentina content every Friday, but we'll see how that works out. But if you subscribe and your notifications are turned on, you're gonna get the first notice anyway, okay? So the background of Argentina is that it is very different from a lot of other countries in Latin America. So if you're used to Colombia, if you're used to Mexico, if you're used to DR, pretty much forget everything that you know because this is much more like traveling to a big city in Italy. This is more like traveling to a big city in Spain when you're talking about culture and the way that people are and how they relate to each other. Even the Spanish that they speak in Mexico or the Spanish they speak in the Caribbean islands is drastically different. So in Argentina, the way they speak is it's very fast. So if you learn Spanish in other places, it may take you a while, especially if we're talking about Buenos Aires, the capital, to understand what people are saying. The first time that I landed in Buenos Aires, I had already been to, I think, 12, 13, 14 Latin American countries. So I was very confident in my Spanish. And as soon as the plane landed and I got in a taxi, the taxi driver was, spitting all these words at me. And it was like, it sounds like Spanish, but it also sounds like Italian. And the words were just coming too quick for me to process them. And it took me about 24 hours for me to finally get my ear attuned to what they're saying in Argentinian, Porteño, Buenos Aires Spanish, right? So first off, I'm gonna let you know the language is gonna be challenging, even if you do know some Spanish, all right? Now, Argentinian people, especially in Buenos Aires, tend to be a lot more white or European or whatever word you wanna call it. A lot of them are pure blood, for lack of a better word. They haven't mixed with any of the natives, and both sides of their family go all the way back to Italy, right? That's a large percentage of Buenos Aires, but it's not the entire country. Now, at the same time, in Buenos Aires, you have a lot of people from other places, and you also have Argentinians who are more mixed, who do have indigenous blood, who do have some African blood, even if they might deny it. And they're going to be more tan. They're going to be the people that tend to work less prestigious type jobs. Like if you see a lawyer in Buenos Aires, more often than not, they're going to be one of the more European types, pure Spanish blood or pure Italian blood or very close to it. And then the people doing, some of the harder labor type stuff, the lower level positions are going to be a little bit darker. And now I know you're probably thinking, why are you talking about color and all this different stuff? Because race definitely plays a factor in Argentina, as much as people might try and deny it. The way you're going to be perceived is going to depend on many different factors. Your race, number one, also your accent, the way that you dress, the way you're presenting yourself, and your nationality. One of the very first things someone from Argentina is going to ask you is, ¿de dónde eres? Where are you from? And I know you can get that in other countries in Latin America, but no one asks that question faster and more intensely than in Buenos Aires. Even in Spain, most people will not ask you where you're from. In Argentina, it's like the first or second question. They want to know where you rank on the social hierarchy, like ASAP, especially if it's not obvious, and with us being, if you're somebody with melanin, if you're somebody of African descent, they're going to want to know even more. They're going to be that much more curious, because the first thing that's going to go through their head is, are you Brazilian, right? Because Brazil is right next door to Argentina. And so a lot of the people that they do see that have darker skin, medium brown skin like my color, are going to come from Brazil. Now, after Brazil, they're going to think that you could be African, directly from Africa, especially if you're darker. So if you're a lot darker than me, there may be an assumption that you are an African. But like I said, it's so many things. It's not just your skin color. It's also going to be the way you dress, the way you carry yourself. And so they want to get to the point as fast as possible to know where you rank. Okay. So that's another reason why I said I can give general advice and general opinions here, but I can tailor it much more when I know the person who I'm speaking to and what their goals are, their objectives in Argentina, and I can tell them whether or not it lines up with what they want, or if they should go somewhere else. Because if they should, I'm going to be very honest about that as well. Now, I said they're going to look at your clothing. I will say this, in Argentina, when it comes to dating women, if I were you, I would err a little bit more on the formal side, because if you are dressed a little bit more formally, that's going to give you access to a wider range of women, versus if you're leaning more on the alternative side, more of the urban side. You're going to have your admirers, of course, but it's going to limit you. It's going to be more of a niche thing, where if you come through clean cut, and I know I'm not clean cut right now, but I've been to Argentina. When I've been clean cut, I've been to Argentina with short hair, long hair, so I know the difference. So when you're more clean cut, you're gonna get a little bit more respect off rip, if that makes sense, or you're gonna have more of a broad appeal to more women. Now, I will say, of course, like anywhere in the world, there's women that they want to see the sauce, they want to see that, that Riz. So, do you. Don't get too far out of who you are. You know what I'm saying? So if you're a guy who, you're a little bit more flashy with your style, and that's you, hey, run with that, and you're going to find somebody who's feeling that. But I'm just saying, if you want to have the broadest range of women, and, you're a little bit more clean cut style, that's going to go very far in Argentina. Education is very big to Argentinians. So if you've got some kind of a title, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an engineer, you are you're a programmer, something like that, those titles are going to give you a lot more respect, versus if you don't have that, if you don't have anything that people will instantly connect to success and like, okay, he's not just a typical whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? So yeah, respect is a very big thing. The way, like I said, the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself is going to change certain interactions. At the same time, too, I will say that Argentinians, they, especially in Buenos Aires, right? Because outside of Buenos Aires is one thing, and in Buenos Aires is another thing. The people in Buenos Aires tend to be more snobby. They have more of a big city type of mentality, similar to what you might get in Paris, similar to what you might get in London to some extent, or New York. Buenos Aires is a global city. So with that, you've got people who are born and raised in the city and they feel like they've seen everything, they know everything, they got that jaded kind of a thing about them. And it also goes, it's also worth mentioning that many families in Buenos Aires have been there for centuries, right? So you've got very old money there, and like I said, the class thing is very stratified, right? So at the upper levels, you're not going to be able to touch those people 9 times out of 10, and that doesn't even really depend on race, because I've heard from white Americans, white British people, white Europeans who just show up and think that they're going to get the same kind of worship in, for lack of a better word, like being able to rise in class just because they're white, when the people in Buenos Aires who are at that elite level, they're white as well. So just showing up and being white is not the draw that it is in other parts of the world and other parts of Latin America. You really have to bring the value. You really have to bring the class that shows that you should be up there with those people, not just, okay, I came from a Western country and I'm white, like let me into that inner circle. Like, no, the social circle thing is very big here. I would say that probably the easiest way to get into the good social circles in Buenos Aires would be to spend a lot of time there and do university there, because in university everybody mixes together. Everyone is kind of on the same level as far as studies. So that's one way that you could get ingrained into the greater society of Buenos Aires, is to come do university there, get to know people, get to move up into those kind of circles. Another thing about the university scene is there are many people from all over Latin America who come to Buenos Aires to study, specifically because the tuition is free there. So you got Brazilians who come a lot for medicine. So I say out of all the Brazilians that I met in Buenos Aires, almost all of them were medical students. So, you know, you might be able to eat there. You might be able to get into those kind of circles. You got a lot of Brazilian tourists as well. You've got a lot of students from Venezuela as well, and they've been very receptive. They're very outgoing people. I'm trying to think what other major nationalities I've encountered, but just in general, you've got people from all over Latin America who come to Buenos Aires to study. So you can find them in bars, you can find them pretty much all over the city. Now, if you're going to stay in Buenos Aires for 2 weeks time, a short vacation, 1 week, somewhere around there, I would recommend that you stay in Palermo, Soho. So Palermo is one of the biggest neighborhoods in Buenos Aires. It's a middle to upper middle class area. So in this neighborhood, you're gonna have a lot of restaurants, a lot of international cuisine, lots of cafes, lots of things to do. You've got lots of big parks, good places to go for a date, and the prices are pretty good. You can walk almost everywhere. And if not, you've got transportation, you've got subways that go most of the day that can get you around the city. Uber works very well. And in Palermo, Soho, that's where there's clubs, there's bars, pretty much everything you need is going to be there. So Palermo is split up into Palermo Hollywood, which also is pretty good. It has some clubs and bars and stuff, but Palermo Soho is going to be the most central. So you can easily walk over to Palermo Hollywood or take a very quick ride. You can easily get to, Palermo Viejo. You can walk there. You can easily get a ride there. It's right in the center. So I would recommend most people on a short vacation to stay there, forget anywhere else in the city. Now, as far as the women, are they choosing brothers? That's what everyone wants to know, right? I will say this. The women in Argentina in general are open to almost everybody. But like I said, there is that class thing and that snobbish thing. So there is kind of a ceiling where you're not going to be able to get past that ceiling, especially as a tourist, if you're coming to visit the city. And that goes a little bit beyond race, but I'd say race is also a big part of that as well, where, like I said, you've got the elite, you got the old families, you got this next level that, you know, the entertainers are there, the professional athletes and stuff, and very, 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 very few blacks are going to be in that group. So it's going to be hard for them to associate you with that, no matter where you come from in the world. But I will say, for the average girl in Argentina, normal, middle class, working class, or whatever background, yes, they are open to brothers. Brothers definitely have a shot. But I want you to know this: don't think that you can just show up and be black and they're just gonna, they're just gonna swamp you. They're just gonna flood to you. Unless you're like crazy good looking and you got girls swamping you wherever you come from, then yeah, of course you're gonna come here, you're gonna come to Argentina, and it's not gonna be that different, right? But I would say be realistic. If you're used to getting girls that are 7, let's say, back home, then come to Argentina. Don't think you're gonna be able to get at 9 just because you're from the States or you're from England or you're from France or what have you. More or less, the level is going to be similar to what you're used to. And I will say that the flaking is off the chain here. And that's for everybody. That's not just if you're black. The flaking is off the chain for you name it, right? So prepare for that. Know that just because you're talking to a girl, she could be wasting your time. She could just be soaking you up for attention. And you have to be very mindful of your time and not just devote everything to one thing that could fall apart. Because if you're counting on just one person to show up one time, you're going to be in for a lot of disappointment in Argentina. Now, as far as the brothers in Argentina, other guys, most of them, like I said, they're going to be Brazilians. They're going to be a lot of guys from Senegal. It's going to be a lot of guys from Haiti. So many girls may assume that you're Haitian. They may assume that you're Brazilian. They may assume that you're from Senegal, depending on how you look and your vibe. Now there are starting to be more and more Black American tourists, especially in the neighborhood I mentioned, Palermo, Soho. So a few times I've been walking down the street and I've just, ran into a brother and we dapped it up, and come to find out he's from the States as well. There are some brothers from the States who play basketball who are, based out in Argentina, playing for a team for a year, 2 years, or what have you. So you can run into Black Americans out there, but that we're very low on the ground. So a lot of people, when they see you, they're not going to be assuming that you're Black American. So take that for what it is. So this is only the first part. If you guys like this, I can do some more videos about more specific things that you would like to see, you would like me to talk about. This was just a pretty general video, letting you know a little bit of the background in Argentina, what it's like to be black there, what it's like for dating based on your race. And like I said, I can do a lot more on this topic. So just let me know. And until next time, this is your guy, J Focus, reminding you to.
Such thing as a life that's better than yours.